So good evening from London, from myself, Lynn Julius, and my technical expert here, Lawrence. And welcome to another Harif Zoom talk. Harif, for those who don't know us, I'm sure a minority among you, we're the UK Association of Jews from the Middle East and North Africa. And we've been running these Zoom talks since the beginning of the pandemic. And it seems such a good idea to continue because we now have a fabulous family of people from all over the world who join us for our fortnightly lectures. We have a website, www.harif.org. You have to be subscribed to our mailing list in order to receive details of our Zooms, the login details. We've got a sister website that keeps you up to date with the news, and that's Point of No Return. You can access it through the Harif website, and please do subscribe to it. You will get an email every day with that day's post. This session is being live streamed to the Harif Facebook page, and it will be recorded. Hopefully the recording will be up on our YouTube channel within a matter of hours. There will be an opportunity to ask our speaker questions. Please do type your question or your comment in the chat. And please do use your real name when, if you want to ask a question, and not iPad or iPhone. So on to tonight's talk. Tonight's talk ties in nicely with Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israel's Independence Day, which was celebrated last week. And the subject tonight is a Moroccan family's aliyah or immigration to Israel. And I am delighted to welcome Sydney Corcos, who is joining us from Jerusalem. Or perhaps I should say welcome back, Sydney, because he's already given us a talk about a couple of years ago now about Mogador, today known as Essaouira. So Sydney is a researcher on the Jewish history of the Mogador community. And in fact, he will soon be publishing his book on the subject. It'll be in Hebrew, and then it'll be in French. And of course, he's hoping for an English version as well, if he can find a sponsor. His ancestors were Tajar al-Sultan, the king's merchants. But just after Morocco acquired its independence, his father David announced to the family that it was time to leave after 600 years in the country. Sydney is a retired director of the Museum of Natural History in Jerusalem, but now tends to dedicate his time to history and research. He will tell the story of how and why his parents chose to emigrate to Israel when other relatives and prominent families moved to Europe or Canada. In 2020, Sydney closed a circle with Morocco when he became involved with the establishment of Beit Dakira, a center dedicated to the Jewish history of Mogador. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to you, Sydney, and thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Harif organization. You are doing a marvelous job. I will go immediately to my to my program, and I share my screen. And thank you for those who are joining us today. It's a privilege for me. So I hope you see my screen now.
Yes,
Okay,
perfect.
so I will talk, as you mentioned, about our Aliyah from well, we came from Mogador, as you see the nice picture of the of the city. But I will, of course, I will give first. It will divide it in two parts. I will give a kind of introduction about the city, about the background of our family, and so it will be more interesting. And but the two parts are, of course, connected. Okay, so as for the background, if for those of you who don't know exactly about Mogador or Essaouira today, for us it was always Mogador. I give you a small introduction. As you can see here, Mogador in the on the coast of the Atlantic Ocean, quite a new city, if you want. It was founded in 1764 by a very interesting Sultan, Sidi Mohammed. I will talk here about three cities: Mogador, Agadir, Marrakesh, because we moved from Mogador to Agadir. So we in fact we live between these two cities here. So in fact the city was founded by 10 first Jewish merchants who were called by the Sultan to come to the new city that he built here in order to open Morocco to the world, to Europe, mainly to Europe, and to be that he can be how we said, he wanted to be financially free, because there were a lot of how you said
True in French.
communities that were against the Sultan, let's say, tribes, okay, tribes that were against the Sultan. Morocco was all the history. There were wars, in wars and out wars, and so on and so on. All the names that you see here in this map are Jewish communities. So you can imagine how many Jewish communities were in Morocco, and some very small, few families, some bigger, some 100 people, some the bigger cities were few thousands. And Mogador at its peak, I will show numbers, I will show figures. There were at its peak 12,000 Jews. Half, it was almost a Jewish city, if you want, because half of the population were Jews. So as I said, he called a merchant. Our family came from here, from Marrakesh. There were already, all those 10 first merchants were already well-established merchants. They had already businesses, and this is why the Sultan chose them, because then he could very easily move the port and the trade with Europe, as I said. And during the 19th century, Mogador was the first port of Morocco. Okay, 90% of the import were all done here with Mogador, and 90% all by the hand of the Jews. This is amazing, and this is why I, of course, I in my book I will mention all those. I found all the names of the merchant. There were few European, there were few Muslims, but everything was in the hand of the Jew, and this is really an amazing history. So to look a little bit at the city, as you can see here, there are a few quarters, three main quarters. First, the Kasbah was built, and here lived the rich and the traders, they lived here in the Kasbah area. The Sultan gave them everything they needed, money, houses, everything, even a slave. I tell you, everything that I'm telling you, every slide I show you, worth a conference apart. So I won't have time to go to everything. But Mogador was a city with the trade of the slave was very important. They came from the Africa, and a lot of the goods came, of course, from Africa, from Timbuktu, and so on and so on. So here you have the Medina. In the Medina lived the mostly Muslim, but there were also Jews living here in what we call Melachdim, or the old Melach. And only in 8009, the Sultan ordered the Jew who lived here to live here in the Melach. There was so the Melach is, if you want, quite new, because there was already a Melach in Melach. If you want, a kind of the Jewish ghetto in other places in Morocco. And but the Jews who were living here in the Kasbah were permitted to stay. So the city was like divided between two communities. The community of the Melach, who were mostly, let's say, poor people and so on, and here were more the richer, and so on. This is a lot of history here about how those two community communicate and how they live together. So the Melach was very overpopulated because the Sultan didn't permit the Jews who came to the city during the history to leave the border of the city. So it was really a very bad situation here. And so this is another story, of course, and no time to talk about it. This is how the city looked like. This is the area of the Kasbah you can see here. The port was about here. The Melach was here. You see, small city, but very important in the 19th and beginning of the 20th century. One of the, as I said, one of the most important import-export city and tied with Europe. And this is why the superpower of the time, saw that the city is very important, said that they put consulate. There were 10 consulate of the superpower of the time. And some of the Jews were nominated consuls, as I will show you in a moment. Some of our family members were also consuls of the superpower. Here, this is the new Kasbah that I am showing here. It was built later because there was no other enough place for the merchandise and for the merchant. So the Sultan decided here in 1867 to build a new Kasbah. Here he lived. One of my great-grandmother here. She opened an English school and for girls. Or this is another story, another conference if you want. Sometimes here my mother lived, was born here almost in the center of the city, and so on and so on. I can tell you a lot of stories about the city. Anyway. So, as I said, the family were merchant of the Sultan, as you mentioned, and they received dahir. Dahir are those permits or letters from the Sultan. Here, I brought you one of the dahir of the Sultan Abdul Rahman in 1857. He write to the brother Jacob and Abraham Corcos. He said, the Sultan, the Jewish brother Jacob Corcos and his brother Ibrahim, they are among the merchants who have received our grave attention because they are the most respected of the treasury merchant. They are respected even by their fellow merchant. Let them not be troubled, and why they abide here may even not touch them. We command all those who read the content of our letter and those who carry out our order and representative to follow them. And so all the merchant, the merchant that were working with that were called the Sultan trader, they received a kind of dahir like this, letter like this, of protection. They were protected by the Sultan. This is amazing relation between the Jewish families and the Sultan and the Sultan family. And when I met the king of today, when I met him in the inaugurating of Beit Dakira, the museum and the center we have inaugurated in January 2020, I told him, His Excellency, when I'm shaking your hand, I'm like it's a family. I'm soger. איך אומרים סוגר? I'm closing a history circle because my family were related to your family for 5 generations. And his answer was, we were with a lot of people. He said, let's continue. It was amazing to hear this from the king, of today's. And so this was my story about the meeting with the king. And here, Andre Azulay with the king, he was the initiator of the project of Beit Dakira in Mogador. If you go and visit Morocco, you should of course go and see. And of course, we have inaugurated there a synagogue, which my family used to go there. So it was for me really 5 years of work and really a nice time. And when I was in Morocco. So I brought, this just to show you a little bit background of the family. You can see picture how people were dressed like English. You see, the European influence was so strong. We were dressed in the Kasbah. All those people, families from in the Kasbah. And in the Melech area, they were completely different. They were dressed like, like the Jews with a black, and a big kippah and so on. So as I tell you, it was like two different worlds. This is me here in Mogador with my father and grandfather. I think this is one of the only picture I have from Mogador. And we have also in archives, we have a lot of letters between the Sultan and the family, and other letters, for example, of Moses Montefiore, who visited Mogador and was stayed in our house. Also, this is another conference, another story. Anyway, now I will talk about the relation between Mogador, or Morocco also in general, and the Holy Land and Palestine in that time. Okay, so because I'm going to talk about our Aliyah and how the connection between Morocco and Eretz Israel. Okay, so here, just a second. When I visited the center, the Jewish Spanish center in Jerusalem, I always saw this stone, and I never stopped to read what it's there. And then one day, about 2 years ago, I stand in front of this stone, and then I read it. And I see a fragment of the stone. Okay, it was a fragment in many parts, and I saw names: Chaim and Masoud Tarjuman, Yitzhak Aflalo, Moshe Aflalo, Avraham Ashriki, Yitzhak Ben Saud, Aaron Corcos. It's written, but it's Corcos. We know him. Moshe Asor, Dina Rohana, Moshe Afriat. Masoud Tarjuman is one of my great-grandfather. So I said, oh, I know all those names. All those names from my research, I found that they are all traders from Mogador. So already in 1860, they gave money, they sent money to Jerusalem to build a synagogue in the old city of Jerusalem. It's amazing how the money got there. I don't know exactly, but it's a fact. And here are the names on the stone in the center. How you call it, not the Spanish,
Sephardi Center, Sephardi.
the Sephardi Center in Jerusalem, if you have visited it. Okay, so so this is one link that I found, and then the link with the land of Israel were not only through, as of course, prayers and but they were also with the emissaries, the shlichim, who came from Israel. It was then time the Ottoman Empire. Okay, they came to Morocco. A lot of them came to collect money for religious institution and for the poor in Palestine, and some stayed on. So I have here only the name that came to Mogador. They passed through Mogador. There are many others that came all over Morocco, and I want only to emphasize two names here. Rabbi Yosef Shmuel Abulafia, called Risha, died in 1920. He arrived in Mogador, and he is buried there. I found his grave. He is the great rabbi of Chaim Abulafia. Is called Es Chaim, the later revived the Jewish settlement in Tiberias, and he is my great-grandfather. So I am from the Abulafia family, from my father's side, so I can call myself a Palestinian, okay? Today, it's we are talking about, all these political problems with Palestinian and so on, but I am a half Jewish Palestinian, if you want. So Rabbi Shmuel Abulafia, who happened to be a very important rabbi, they asked him to stay in the Rabbanut, and this is how we have a branch of the Abulafia family in Mogador. This is amazing, but this is the story. So the another name that I want to emphasize here is Rabbi Moshe Navon and his cousin. They came also as shlichim, and he happened to be the grandfather of the Israeli president, the former president, Yitzhak Navon. And by chance, I also found his grave. He is buried in Mogador. Unfortunately, he is under the mausoleum of Rabbi Chaim Pinto. They have built in the 90s a mausoleum, and there were underneath some graves, and one of them were Rabbi Yonah Navon. So you can see the connection all those years, all those hundreds of years, if you want, between Eretz Israel and Morocco. So here we have some figures about the population of Mogador. As I said, at its peak, it was 12,000 in 1910, 1912, 1913, and then slowly it's went down till 1970s. There were only 500, and then only today there is only, if you want, one Jew left, really an autochthon who lived in Mogador. So here I'm writing here, the San Remo conference aroused great enthusiasm and elation among Moroccan Jews. An atmosphere of redemption prevailed among many communities, and this was expressed in prayer, Thanksgiving, public meeting, and home gathering, in religious messianic awakening, and in expansion of Zionist activity, which included preparation for Aliyah to Israel and increased purchase of the shekel. Okay, the shekel was, I found here, this, see here, this document here, this is what we call the shekel. It was a kind of donation for the Zionist movement, and I found this in a house, in a family in Mogador. So you can see really the connection between Mogador and Eretz Israel. But not only that, there were Zionist activists in Morocco, and especially in Mogador. A Zionist association called Agudat Sha'arei Zion, or another Agudat HaMa'aravim, Witzel later came and worked in Mogador, Hapoel HaMizrahi, and so on. Not only that, for example, here Meir Bar Sheshat wrote to Theodor Herzl a big letter in 1908. He wrote to him, and we know that Herzl answered, but I don't have the answer. But you know, they were very, let's say, Zionism were very strong in Mogador in that time. I even found this small letter from 1946, that small letter that it said in French, but we hope that very soon we'll have a Jewish state. So you can see here, it's not only messianic and dream, but it was getting more and more reality. Even in Mogador, we can find in the 19th century, they have imagined the Jewish flag. You can see it's only in Mogador. You can fly in the Ketubah in the 19th century. The imagining it was not really the flag, but it was like the flag of Israel here, with only one David star. Here you have with two stars. And as I said, it's a phenomenon found only in Mogador. Here you can find the French flag, because those were rich merchants, and they had the protection of the superpower. So here, this one have the protection of French. My grandfather, for example, I have a ketubah. Also, this is another conference. Yes, I have a ketubah with the Italian flag, because he was Italian protected. I have Abraham Corcos that I show him before. That I show you before. He was the American consul in Mogador, and in this ketubah you can see the old American flag. This is amazing. Anyway, another way of contact with the Holy Land. For example, my great-grandfather here, Moses Corcos, he received a letter of appreciation from the Rabbi of Jerusalem for his contribution to the city poor in 1902. He sent money to Jerusalem, and he received this letter that I found in the archive of the family, with all the texts and everything, with the Rabbi of Jerusalem. Really amazing documents. Also, there were Hebrew society in Mogador. They speak fantastic Hebrew. They were a kind of society, and they spoke Hebrew, and they understood Hebrew. Not everyone, of course, but there was a few who could speak a fluent Hebrew. And Rabbi David Ifla, Rabbi David Elkaim, for example, he wrote magnificent poems on the graves. So you can see on the graves in Mogador, amazing poems in Hebrew that today impossible to find a poem like this, much before the state of Israel was established. And I have a friend who wrote now a book about this phenomena, about the graves and the writings and the poems on the graves of Mogador. I'm talking about it in my book also. And also individuals came to Israel much before the state of Israel. I gave you some example. Rabbis, they came. As you can see here, a member of the family, Miriam Corcos. She was the sister of Moses, the one that I show you. She had a school, also a girls' school, but she in the 20s she came to Jerusalem. Here, Aisha Afriyat, she was a very rich woman. She received money from her father who died, and she went to Jerusalem, and she gave money for the poor. A lot of story. And here Masuda Corcos, she was a Bulafia. She came to Tiberias to die and to be buried in the place where their husband was born. As I said, we are from the Abulafia family. But here, an interesting name here, it's Abraham Rosilio here, and Phoebe Rosilio. Abraham Rosilio, his he is the grandfather of A.B. Yoshua, Aleph Bet Yoshua, the writer, the big Israeli writer. He was born in Mogador, and he came to Palestine, and he bought many houses that still exist today in Machne Yehuda in Jerusalem, and still belong to the family. So you can see the strong contact with the Holy Land, with Palestine. I don't know why I have this here. I cannot. So I am moving forward, and the independence, the visit after the independence, Nasser visited Morocco, and this increasing Muslim nationalism, causing embarrassment, fear, and anxiety among Jews. Growing unemployment and poor economic conditions were a catalyst for Jews to leave, a process that would intensify after the Six-Day War and the Yom Kippur War. Okay, I'm going a little further. I want here to emphasize that the Jews in Morocco, it is important to mention that the Jews in Morocco were never expelled. Never expelled. They left, if they could, they left with their own free will. And not like in Egypt, not like in Syria, not like in Iraq, which they were another story, completely story. So there were periods that you could leave Morocco without with problem, but you could leave. And then after after the independence, it was forbidden to leave, and this is why I'm talking today about how we left in 1959 when it was impossible to leave Morocco. Okay, this is the story. So as I said, superstitious exit of Jews was possible until 1956, the year that Morocco acquired its independence. In the year 56 and 61, immigration with the help of the Mossad emissary and the Jewish underground became illegal and dangerous until the Agos boat sank. If you remember this tragedy, when the 46 Jews, women, children sank with a ship near Gibraltar. And in that period, only 8,000 Jews left during this period. No, the disaster was a catalyst for an agreement to be reached for Jews to be allowed to live in exchange of a ransom of 25 million. And then Jews later in the 60s, 64, 8,000 Jews left in what we call the Operation Yachin. But it was all with the accepted by the Sultan and by the Moroccan authority. Okay, I want to give you some here some figures about in Mogador. For example, in 55, 56, 77, 4 Jews left from Mogador and immigrated to Israel on small boat. Some of them rickety. Very difficult, they immigrate in very difficult conditions. You can see here some figures, you can see by yourself, but I want to emphasize this period here. 80, 90, 58, 1959, only 3 illegal immigrants left, and we were among them, and I will tell the story about how we decided and how we left. Okay, just to show you another figure here, in 1963, 300 Jews. So in one day, they left Mogador in a single day. It was really a big event. And they were flown to Marseille, and then they boarded a rickety ship for Israel in difficult condition. Thus, the city was slowly emptied of its Jewish inhabitants. According to testimony, they were allowed to take very few belongings with them and could only take a small amount of money per person. Excess money was confiscated if they were caught. And I've heard stories about how they stopped Jews who try to take out money from the country. But I will tell you how now I'm going a little bit now to our story. So between 1950 and 1956, as I said, so Morocco was the height of its economic development until independence, which would also change the social and economic situation for the worse, especially what we call the westernized. Okay, so in Morocco, there was two kinds of Jews, if you want. There were the Ma'aravim, or Mit Ma'aravim, the westernized, and the Hamaravim, who were Jews from the middle and upper classes who lived in completely in a different world and in a European environment, almost detached from Muslim society, whom not only the Muslim, but the other society, the Jewish society called the natives or the indigene. Jews in a Muslim country were still considered, in general, as dhimmi, okay, second class, but it was not so in the 90s and the 20s. It was not so strong. It was not, let's say, you couldn't say you are a second class and you are upper class. But as I said, there were the westernized, and this is important to emphasize this westernized people, because we belong to those westernized people. So my father we left already Mogador because Mogador was finished. The French in 1912 they left, and no, they came to Morocco in 1912, and they restored the French regime in Morocco. So. But they didn't want Mogador to be the first port. They closed the port, almost closed the port of Mogador, and they opened the port of Casablanca and Safi and developed them. So there was no work, there was nothing to do, and the city was slowly, going down. So we left for Agadir. My father, because we were, traders from centuries, he opened a business. He was a trader. He was working with the Muslim. Everything was going well. Agadir, a fantastic city. And you can see here my father here with me here. This is Agadir, and here the Kasbah of Agadir. You can see that 62 years later, I came to Agadir in the same place. I'm standing in the same place, but you can see here everything changed. And I will tell you, most of you must know what happened in Agadir. I will come to it. I will come to it. But this is the place we lived in Agadir. So independence of Morocco and the departure of the French, okay, as I said, caused a severe economic crisis, and many businesses collapsed. The family moved to Casablanca. So we left Agadir, and we decided, because my father, his business, fall down. It was import, export, and we had to decide what to do. So we decided to leave and to move to Casablanca. So we lived in Casablanca. This is our house in Casablanca in 58, 59, a very nice Andalusian house. I remember it. I came here years later. This is me here visiting here in the 90s. And my father worked with companies of Jewish companies, with the Pinto family and other family there. But unfortunately, there was another economic crisis, and companies in which my father worked, mainly in the tea trade in the world collapsed. And then we decided that that's it. We have to leave Morocco. And people all the time, Jews were all the time that in the period were leaving Morocco anyway. And part of our family already have left Morocco. This is me here before our Aliyah in Casablanca with my aunt here. before we left. So what happened? My father knew a man. I call him a shadow figure, a non-conformist diplomat. He was the head of Nahum Goldman. His name was Joe Golan. Joe Golan was really a very interesting figure. He was born in Alexandria in 1922, and he was educated in Sorbonne. He was educated in France. He was very educated. He spoke languages, Arabic, French, English, and so on. And he became to be the aide of Nahum Goldman. Nahum Goldman was the president of the Jewish Congress in that time. Very important man in that time, and he was sent to Morocco to help, try to help for the immigration of the Jews there. He had close relations with personal connection. He was a very charming man. I remember him a little bit because I met him when I was a child. And he had personal, intimate acquaintance with the king of Morocco, Mohammed V, and the foreign minister, and many other personality in the country that were, and he were able to, to have those contacts. And he met my father, and my father and him get very close, and this was very important because he is the one who helped us to leave the country. As I said, in 1959, it was impossible to leave Morocco. Morocco was closed for Jews. Even phone calls you can make. So Joe Golan, he was appointed, as I said, political advisor on Arab affairs to Nahum Goldman, the president of the Zionist Congress. And he established secret contact with many leaders in the Arab world, especially in Morocco, when he was sent to deal with the exodus of the Jews. He became acquainted with my father, David Corcos, and he formed a friendship. You see here, Nahum Goldman here, who was then very important man here, the President Weizmann here with Adenauer, the Chancellor Adenauer. He was the one who arranged the compensation of the Holocaust survivors and so on and so on. Very important figure in that time. So the problem was how to leave Morocco, how we could get passports. So I think that Joe Golan helped us. And not only that, we had to say, we are not going to Israel. We are going to immigrate to France. We are French. We have family in France. We are going to France. So somehow we could obtain in 1958, 59, a passport. As you see here, my mother, this is me, my brother, my sister, a passport. And we had to declare that we were not immigrant to Israel. And this was very important. But to close another life circle, 60 years later, I could obtain a Moroccan passport very easily. I could say in 2 weeks, I could arrange my passport because I needed the passport. This is why I could go in without a visa, and I can come to Morocco freely, and they accept me, and no problem today this is amazing. This is the only Arab country that this phenomena exists. Yes, that you can get your passport back. You can go, and it doesn't exist in any other Arab country, of course. So our aliyah to Israel. So with the changing condition in Morocco, as I said, the deterioration of the general economic and family situation and the rise of nationalism, my father surprised even himself when he decided in 1959, at the age of 42, for the sake of his value, Jewish and family motives, that the family will immigrate to Israel. And like our old family members and members of the Moroccan upper class, as I said, the Mitmarvim, who choose to immigrate to France, England, and United States and Canada. And he writes in a letter to a friend that I found I choose to settle with my family, not in New York or Canada, not in Paris or London. More than 2/3 of my family converted to Christianity. This is true. And my cousin from London have long belonged to the Protestant church. But I kept my faith because it's my ancestral inheritance. I want my family to continue on the same path. And I wrote here, this was an intelligent decision with proof correct for David himself and for the family, for the future generation, and so on. So he went, and another sentence he wrote, he went to the cemetery of Mogador for the last time to separate from his father and grandfather that are buried there. When I came back, I found all the graves. He wrote, "We are leaving Morocco for good after 600 years because we are Spanish. We are not autochthon. Yes, we are Megorashim. What you call Megorashim? We are family from Spanish Megorashim from Spain. So what?
Exiled.
The exiled. We are the exiled from Spain 600 years ago. And the reason for the family to immigrate to Israel, and unlike, write it again, all the family members who choose to immigrate to Canada, friend, I want my children to remain Jews. So this was a really, even we didn't know exactly what is going on in Israel. Joe Golan told us stories, because he was living in Israel, in Moshav. He had a good condition. He told us a lot of stories about Israel. We didn't knew anything about almost anything about the country. Anyway, we were on our way. We packed everything. It was possible for us to take our furniture. My father said, "We are not going to leave if we cannot take our furniture, our goods, our documents, and our books." My father had more than 5,500 books. He was an intellectual. He was already very interested in the history of the Jews of Morocco in general and in North Africa. So he wanted to take all his books. And Joe Golan said, "No problem, you will take everything with you." So we are going, no, don't try to read this because it's too small. I have put it you in a bigger way. So this is a telegram that Joe Golan sent before we are on our way to Marseille. He write to his friend Baruch Duvdevani before our immigration in July 50, in June, 6 June, the 8th in 59, he wrote, "David Corcos, his wife, and 3 children arrived in Marseille from Morocco on their way to Israel," and he continued, "This is one of the aristocratic Moroccan family. Both are intellectual. This is an example to be followed or encouraged if they are taken care of properly. I suggest that instruction be given to Marseille to provide proper care for their way to Israel with luggage, to arrange a studio for the parents when they arrive and for the children arrival. I will end the telegram." It was a telegram, which comment in order to give a description of the atmosphere in the community of Jews in Morocco. So Joe Golan understood something. So he writes, 42 years old Corcos belonged to an ancient family from Mogador. His wife is from the Afriat family, okay, a respected family from the descendant of Rabbi of Ufran, Rabbi Yuda Afriat. This is another, of course, another story, another that all will be in my book. About the episode of the Ufran martyrs. Okay, this is a whole story. They have 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter. They are idealists who, instead of settling in Canada or Venezuela like their friends, they want to start a new life in Israel. For them, the passport is not a problem, okay, because we have read the passport. And it's not a problem for the middle class, either many of whom work in administration. I understood here that if you worked with the administration, you could get somehow a passport. David Corcos could be a test case, an example. I personally believe that I am convinced that he will find his way in Israel, and this will have a good effect about Jews of Morocco. So he understood here that the policy with the Jews of Morocco have to be changed a little bit. And he continued culturally. Corcos researchers bring with him an important library and century-old correspondence with the Sultan. Corcos economically. Corcos took advantage of the use of carobs because my father was working with carobs, exporting carobs to Europe. They were doing glue with it and other things. His experimental skill on his contact in the world, in the field, will help him develop the field. I think we must reform in our immigration policy and find a method depending on the development of the situation. We must attract the Moroccan Jews in the claim they know. Many of them can get a passport and find a way to leave the country for the past 10 years. And here he brings some figures here. And he finished here, he finished here, I'm sure the Baruch that will understand. I was worried about the lack of real contact among Moroccan Jews, about the real contact between Moroccan Jews in Israel and the Jewish community in Morocco. So you see that because our, let's say, our special story, he tried to convince the Jewish agency to change his policy toward the Jews in Morocco and to try to help and to bring the other classes that then came. In that time they didn't came to Morocco. They went, as I said, to Europe. So we went to Marseille. In Marseille, we didn't go. We had chance that we had an aunt in Marseille, so we stayed in our aunt's house for I think 2 months or something before we took a very fancy ship, the Theodor Herzl, as you can see. So this was a very nice ship of Zim in that time. The ship doesn't exist anymore. It was for tourists, but we had chance to go on this ship 4 days. A magnificent way to immigrate to, to an unknown country. And this was the way we arrived to Israel. And here I have some documents that we found. All those documents my brother found in the archives of the Jewish agency. We found even the list of the name of those who were with us on the ship. There were tourists, but there were other other immigrants. There were no Moroccan. Only you see Algeria, England, Poland, Polish, Australian, Argentina, Poland, USSR, and so on. No Moroccan. We were, I think, the only Moroccan in the ship. And it was here written that we have to go to Ezra Betzaron. Here is state where each of the people on the ship, the immigrant, should go. And it was written here we have to go to Ezra Betzaron. Ezra Betzaron was my parents wanted to go to Jerusalem because they wanted to work and everything. So it was, a kind of barracks, a ma'abara in that time. So I'll tell you the story. This is the other people, the passenger of the Theodor Herzl ship, and so on. So this is the barrack that about. It was not like this. It was even worse than this. This is where they sent us at the beginning, and it was amazing. It was there was nothing. There was only dunes of near Rishon LeZion, dunes. Where our belongings will go, where we are going to live here, where the furniture will go into. So it was even smaller than this. I brought you only an example to show you a barracks like this. And in the 50s, the situation was quite difficult because hundreds of thousands of Jews came not only from North Africa, but also still from Europe. They were still coming from Europe, and Holocaust survivor, and so on and so on. So Baruch Devani, as I said, the director of the Aliyah department, the friend of Joe Golan, he is making all his effort. He was a very important man in that time. He is doing effort to help the family, and at the request of Joe Golan and on behalf of the World Jewish Congress. So he writes a letter to the Jewish Congress. He said, our hope is that if this absorb our family, then additional family from the Jewish intelligentsia will come from country of North Africa. We are making effort in Israel to make arrangement for the reception. The Corcos couple started learning Hebrew in the Ulpan. This is the time when we left already the barracks and we went to Jerusalem, and my parents were in the Ulpan, okay, studying and also could sleep there. It was a kind of hotel in Jerusalem. And we were arranged and take care of the children arrangement for the duration of the parents' study. We asked that you personally handed the release of the cargo from custom and the suitable place to keep for their belongings. So we had 2 big containers, with our things, no place to put them, so they had to keep them for us till we found a place or a house. So Baruch Devani, as I said, he was very important at that time in the department of the Aliyah, in the Jewish agency. He is trying to do his best to help us. And indeed, my parents went to the Ulpan, and we went in a kind of school near Jerusalem, but it was not so easy. My parents also bought a small car I tell you, we were not rich. We had some money. We could buy a car. We wanted to have a car. My father, so he bought a Dashvo, if you remember this car, and it was so difficult because here in this letter it said that we have to pay custom. We are immigrant coming from Morocco with belonging and things, not much money, but we have. At that time, no immigrant came with a car to Israel. It was something unusual. So he said in his letter, allow them at least pay off the debt in monthly payment that will not burden the family budget. It's amazing that, because later, if you remember the Aliyah from Russia and so on, no one had to pay anything. And when they came with car or any belongings, all the policy changed. But in 1959, it was different. So I'm coming back a little bit to Agadir, because as I tell you, something happened in Agadir. At the earthquake of May 1960, we were already a few months in Israel, okay? So we had a house. You see the city here. This is where most of the Jews lived here. And 1,500 of them perished in the earthquake. It was amazing. So we can say we are rescapé. We survived the earthquake. We came few months before the earthquake. It was a devastating earthquake. Our house was here in the French area. And this is our house in Agadir. It was not sold. It was impossible to sell the houses. So my parents, they rented the house to the French consul, and we hoped to get money, from the property, from our family in Europe. But unfortunately, the house was destroyed, and so no income came from the house. And he writes, and here from the letters that we found, he said, one of Duvdevani, he said that we lost our belongings in Agadir and so on. And regarding to the loss of property, they went down the drain in the earthquake in Agadir. He wrote it in May 1960. So he writes, Mr. Corcos has certain means to get in Israel on his own. But there is no doubt that for the purpose of his arrangement, he will need, first period, he will need the help of the institution through housing, mortgage, etc. So I'll tell you, we didn't get any mortgage, anything. For 30 years, we didn't have a house. We rented all the time, but we rented very fancy places. At the time, it was not so expensive, but my parents do their best, and my father tried. My father, in fact, took everything on their hand. My father began to work first in the radio, in broadcasting in Judeo-Arabic as a political commentator. He gathers sand from different sources. The list, for example, the list of the earthquake survivor in Agadir, that he broadcasted on the radio in French, in Judeo-Arabic. This is our first picture in 1961 in a very nice neighborhood in Jerusalem. We were in very good schools, but it was only because my parents, took their fates into their hand and decided that we are going to do everything with our power. But the agency still is trying to help us. And here there is a letter from Mr. Yakir, representative of the Jewish agency in Jerusalem. He wrote to Shaul Friedlander. Shaul Friedlander was later the most important Holocaust professor in Israel. He worked also with Nahum Goldman, a representative of the Jewish agency in New York, and to remind him the support of the families that Joe Golan guided. Okay, Joe Golan asked that the Jewish agency and the Congress have to help us. Also, here with the school, for example, my parents had to pay for the school we went because it was a kind of place that we could, a dormitory also, and with food and everything. So it was not so easy. But then came an answer. So Nahum Goldman said, I don't remember ever promising to support the aforementioned family, so I don't see any possibility of further intervention on our part. So Nahum Goldman forgot, or I don't know what, he said we didn't promise anything, so we forgot the Jewish agency and the Machleket Aliyah and the Aliyah department. So my father, the family make its own way through the labor market, and we children learned Hebrew and integrated into school despite all the difficulties. So my father, he knew, we began to know people. We met here a very important man in that time in Jerusalem, Raphael Abulafia, who was one of the leaders of the Sephardic community in Jerusalem. And he was a director of Misgav Ladar Hospital, and so on. And he was from the Abulafia family. So I discovered later, but my father already knew that we were connected by the Abulafia family. We were from the same branch from Tiberias, and he helped us a lot. Here, it was in the, how you call it, the Lions Club, okay? The Lions Club, my father was already in Agadir in the Lions Club, okay? So there was a Lions Club in Agadir, and Abulafia brought my parents to Lions Club, so my parents could, get into the society of Jerusalem, and they know a lot of people. As I said, my father was, as a certain standard, and he knew professor, he was interested in history, but he need to work. So after our immigration, my father joined an import-export company trading with Africa. So he went to Africa, he was traveling to Africa, but think, in the 60s, before the 6-Day War, in Israel, there was a recession. There was a very difficult economic problem. I don't know if you knew that. Anyway, he became then a full-time historian. with the encouragement of the Ben Tzvi of the president. That time, the president he met the president Ben Tzvi, and he showed him the documents, and Ben Tzvi, who later, of course, the Ben Tzvi Institute is on his name. Yeah, he said to my father, "You have to make research, you have to write the history, and we'll try to help you." So my mother worked at first in the Israel radio, Call Israel, broadcasting in French, and later in the book editing of Keter Publishing House, okay? The Keter Publishing House. And here you can see here in the fair, book fair, with Teddy Kollek, the mayor of Jerusalem, the president Shazar here. It was, we can say, a good time at in this period. And my father wrote all the articles. He was accepted to the Encyclopedia Judaica, and he wrote all the article about Morocco and about North Africa with assistance of the professor Ben Zion Netanyahu, the father of Bibi Netanyahu. Okay, he was a professor. He recommended him, and I remember him, Ben Zion. He was and his wife were friends of my parents. They came to my bar mitzvah and so on. And here my mother worked in Kol Israel in Jerusalem. It was a good time. So my father really, it was not, the income of writing, article, it was not so, but with the help of my mother, it was okay. And we were in school, we were, we went to the army and everything. So at the end of the story, the important thing that my father wanted to pass us, and his legacy were that we would help the less fortunate. This is what he wrote, that we would be good people, that we would remain united as a family and continue its name. This is what he wrote on June 7, 1967, after the liberation of the old city. It was after the 6-Day War, in a page in a book that I found. First, he prayed for peace and prosperity in this country, for all the people on our poor planet, he called it. I'll list here a number of memories so that my children, Sydney, Jack, and Evelyn, will remember them, and their children, and those who will come after us, and this family unit goes, God willing, as I hope and I wish with all my heart, to strengthen, recover the greatness of our ancestors in the Holy Land. Amen. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much,
Try to
Sydney.
stop sharing the screen, Sydney.
Can you exit?
This is the sunset in Mogador, but this is the sunset in Jerusalem, the same sun. This is a picture of Jerusalem that I drew some years ago. Anyway, thank you for listening. How I stop this? Stop share.
Yes. Okay. No, thank you very much, Sydney. Absolutely amazing that had your family not left Agadir when they did, they might well not have survived the earthquake.
Well, I had an aunt and cousins, maybe some of them are listening, that survived. My aunt, they survived by a miracle. By miracle. The house was destroyed. And we had another uncle of my mother, but they lived in a strong house, and this is how they survived. But 12,000 people died in this earthquake. Yeah.
But if anyone's got a question, please do type it in the chat.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you, Sydney, I mean, it's almost unknown, the fact that so many people died in this earthquake. And you said 1,200 Jews died in
500. 1,500 Jews.
500,
yeah.
Which is a massive number. I mean,
half of the community.
Half the community.
Yeah.
And has anything been done to sort of memorialize?
Yes. There is in Ashdod, there is a memorial, because many Agadir from Agadir people who came lived in Ashdod, and the mayor erected there a memorial, and each year there is a memorial and a ceremony, and I used to go each year. Last year there was no, but every year there is a commemoration. There are a book written by a friend of mine about, she is a survivor. She lived here in Jerusalem. Yes.
Absolutely amazing. Do you think if you hadn't had help from Joe Golan, you would not have managed to survive in Israel? Do you think you might have, moved away from Israel?
Well, I don't know if Jogolan helped us in Israel because, he was in Morocco, but I remember we met him. I remember we met him in the Moshav. I think he was still in contact with my father. Maybe he helped us somehow, but I can't say. I don't have a lot of information about it, but for sure he helped us to make the decision and to leave the country. I'm sure of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
He died.
absolutely.
He died about 5 years ago when he went back to Morocco, Jogolan, to meet his friends in Morocco, the old in the old political friends and so on. And he died in the same place, almost in the same city, El Jadida, where there was a camp for immigrant to Israel. He died there, and they brought his coffin here to Jerusalem.
So
Yeah.
we have a question from I think it was Laura, who asked, what was life like for those who stayed in Morocco? And a connected question from Sarah, how is life now for the remaining Jews of Morocco?
Well, the remaining Jews are, let's say, if you want, fortunate. They had businesses, they were good position. This is why they didn't left. They stayed. They want to continue with their businesses. They have houses, they have everything. So most of the Jews who live today, only maybe 2,000 Jews are in a good condition, but all the young are leaving the country. And in few years, I think also I don't know, the community will somehow will disappear. But there are some Israeli who are coming back and trying, to buy houses and making businesses. But now with the situation, it's much more problematic. Yeah.
Right. So you don't think there's a future for the community in Morocco?
No. I don't see a future. Impossible. Also, if you saw what happened after the event of October, there were a lot of manifestation against Jews and so on, and it was a little dangerous even. Although the relation between the Jewish community and the Arab were good, but there are extremists and there are fanatism also in Morocco. There are a lot against the relation. They said that Morocco have to break the ties with Israel, so it's not safe. It's not safe. Let's say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, not good. But still, the king seems to be, in favor of the Abraham Accords. He's not about to break the Abraham Accords, is he?
Yeah, the king is really, he's on the top. He is the king. Really, he is a special man. He tried to keep the tie with Israel. Nothing will change his position about it. He even said that it is forbidden to talk about to talk loudly, if you want, against the ties with Israel and so on. And there is a lot of contact with Israel, some unknown, most of them are unknown, army and so on. I don't want to elaborate about it, but we have contact in agriculture and so on. But the event of October stopped a little bit the process. They were ongoing.
And how How secure do you think the monarchy is in Morocco?
Uh, look, this is a good question. There were a time that the monarchy was, I don't know if you remember, the father of this king. He was almost twice or three times he was almost assassinated. This is why Morocco is a country with a very strong police. You have about 5 different police in Morocco. This is a police country, if you want, and a strong army. And the police is giving defense to the monarchy very strong. So he's very protected. Let's say the king is very protected, but this king is very popular. So I don't think now he is, in a danger or something. I think he's a very good king for Morocco too. He is above everything. I mean, he is like God in Morocco. You can't touch the king.
Okay.
And I had the opportunity to meet him personally.
Yeah, wonderful. Alain Fahy asks, is Andre Azoulay still advisor to the king? I think he is, isn't he?
Yes. Andre Azoulay, he is the king. I am very friendly with him. I talk to him every 3 weeks. Every week. He's the one who called me to come to work with him. I work with Andre Azoulay, and I don't know if you remember, but exactly a year ago he came to Israel with a delegation. I was with the delegation. He received the prize of the president of Israel, the President Prize, and it was really a fantastic event. Unfortunately, a month later came also the earthquake in Morocco. It was 3,000 people died in Marrakesh, around Marrakesh, and Morocco did want that we send a delegation. They said we don't need. And then came the 7th of October. Things stopped a little bit and changed things. Yes.
Elizabeth asks, I think, can you tell us something about Beit Dakira, the center that you helped to found?
Beit Dakira was the house where my great aunt lived. Okay, the aunt of my mother. She lived with Mesodatia. It was a riad, a big house in the Kasbah, in the center of the Kasbah, just near our house in Mogador. And Mesodatia, he was the community president of the community for 40 years. Okay, so my mother still remember not Beit Dakira. It was the house of the Atiyah family, and it was a synagogue, a fantastic synagogue, the Atiyah synagogue. It was a replica of the synagogue in Manchester, a small replica of the synagogue in Manchester, an English synagogue. And I have the opportunity and the privilege to renew the synagogue and to bring the synagogue as it was. So today, Beit Dakira is a kind of center of call it, of tolerance between Jews and Muslims and so on. And there is an exhibition of Jewish history. Some of my family are exhibited there. There are films and so on, and a lot of events going on there, and music and conferences, and it's very active center. And it's really something really amazing, I can say.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe some of you would like to go and visit, perhaps not now, but when things settle down a little bit.
Yeah, you can. We can go. You can go to Morocco. I wasn't there for 1 year. I did also the direct fly stopped, between Israel and Morocco. But I will find a way to come back. I know people. Most of them were first were in a shock, and they didn't react. They didn't say anything, but later on they said, "Okay, we are with you. We think about you," and so on, so on. And of course, I spoke with Mr. Azoulay, and I think I will come back. I have my Moroccan passport. I will come to visit. I was during a long period, 5 years working there. It's like my country, you see.
Yeah. But Josiane actually says she did visit Beit Dakira in April, and she said it was very well done and very beautiful.
Yeah.
So that's a very good recommendation.
Yeah, it was a restoration. We restored really the Moroccan when they want. And also the king gave the money. The king gave him €1 million, and the German gave some money for the furniture, the German. So I met the German ambassador there all the time. And yeah, it's really a very, very important project, let's say, in an Arab country. Yeah.
Well, we've had lots of compliments, Sydney. Everybody has enjoyed your presentation. I don't think there are any more questions, so I think we will wrap up this meeting. So it just remains for me to thank you so much for sharing your story. That was absolutely fascinating.
I see some of the comments of thanks. I saw some of my cousins. Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Okay. Can I do the adverts, Lynn?
Okay, so just to remind everyone that in 2 weeks we go from Morocco to Iraq, actually, because it's the anniversary of the Farhud, the Farhud massacre of 1941, when my colleague Michelle Huberman will be talking about the Farhud and other massacres, unfortunately, that Jews have experienced in the last 100 years. So Lawrence is putting up the advertisements. That's the Farhud and its long shadow. And we've also got a book launch, Loving Strangers by Jay Prosser, and he will be talking about his new book. And so I think we come to the point that you've all been waiting for.
I have to take one or two people
out. There are one or two people who haven't used their real names. So unfortunately,
I think one person did ask them for their name, but they wouldn't give me their name, I'm afraid.
Okay, but everyone else can unmute and say hello or say thank you or whatever they would like to Sydney.
Now, the interesting thing is that person, the second they spoke just now, they actually just took themselves out of the meeting.
Oh, okay then.
They knew what was coming. Right. Everyone can now mute themselves, but if we can do it in a dignified way as usual, I will take the spotlights off so I can see everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
It's Maurice. Hi.
Hi, Maurice.
Hello. Thank you. It was really
I'm
very.
Irene, and I'm in the United States, and I'm a Corcos family member as well.
Oh, yeah.
And this was an exciting presentation. Thank you so much, Sydney. I learned a lot, and I continue to learn from you. Thank you so much. Well, and I have a lot of memories too of the Agadir earthquake. And also there was a lot of water coming in. I think that's why there were so many people who suffered from it as well. In regards to how welcoming Morocco was, my family had, many members of my family from Fez, a number of years ago were invited to come to Morocco, and they were welcomed with open arms, and they just loved it. And these were all the people who were born in Fez. Thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you for all the messages. Nick, thank you. And Mr. Assor, I know about your brother, Sydney. I know about it. I'm trying to contact you, Mr. Assor. Try to contact me.
Email him. I have his email.
Yeah. Can we do it? I think Nicole is next, actually. She raised her hand first. Nicole.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to ask something about I went to Cape Verde years ago, I had found about the stories of some young men that were sent to from Mogador to Cape Verde. They were they were young men. They were sent like one in a family or something like that. And what I understood is that at the time, and it must have been poor families in Mogador, and so economically they could not just hold all the children, and they just sent some boys out, and they lived, they survived there, and they thrived there, and now their descendants are in big positions in Cape Verde. I interviewed a few people. One was a director for hospital. So one was a Cohen that went out there, and I saw their how do you call that? Their tombs and things like that. And so the descendants, as I said, so one was a director for a hospital, one was the president of the Ligue des Droits de l'Homme, and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And in
Did
fact,
you-
they told
yeah,
me
Yeah,
they
Nicole, we did do a
oh, you
lecture
did
on
that.
Cape Verde. In fact, I think Carol Castiel, who delivered the
Oh.
lecture,
Okay, all right. So
is
that's
on the
okay.
call
And
now.
I can probably find.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, may I speak if it's
Yeah.
okay?
Fine.
Hi, Carol.
Hi.
Hi,
Carol.
hi,
Yeah.
Nicole. Nice,
Carol.
nice to see you
All
after
right.
so many years.
So
And I know, Sydney, I spoke with you. If you don't mind, I'll just mention very quickly, if you don't mind, I need to correct something Nicole said. Well, we just published our Portuguese language book, Os Judeus Marroquinos de Cabo Verde. And obviously, the Jews of Morocco, the Jews who went there, Cohen, Brigham, whose name is in Hebrew, Ohayon, and others, played a major role in developing the economy in the 19th century. They were involved in commerce. And I have to respectfully correct Nicole. These were not just poor boys. I mean, these were very educated families. David Jacob Cohen, Abraham Brigham, the first Jew who we believe arrived in Ponta do Sol in Santo Antão. So if anybody wants to read the book, we're trying to translate it into English. It should be ready by next year. But I would just like to say that there's no question that Mogador, now called Essaouira, Jews from there, as well as northern Morocco, Tanger, Tétouan, and also even Rabat. These Jews went in the 19th century and the mid 1800s. There was a lot of political turmoil in Morocco after the Franco-Moroccan War, after the Spanish-Moroccan War. There was unemployment. And then there was also the pull of the Portuguese-British alliance. Portugal signed a trade treaty with Britain. Of course, Portugal was the colonizing power at the time, and they allowed the British to come in. They developed coal stations, shipping in São Vicente, which is the island next to Santo Antão. We have the two Jewish cemeteries that we restored. So there's a lot of history there, but the Jews were then prominent, and their descendants, as Nicole said, are prominent to this day as well. So I'm working on this almost full time now. I just retired from the Voice of America. So I'm dedicating my time as a volunteer, as always, to honoring the legacy and documenting the history of the Jews of Morocco in Cabo Verde.
Yeah. There's some
Fantastic.
Jews, of course.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted that you're here, Carol, to sort of fill us in on the history.
Well, it's my pleasure. I noticed I haven't met Sydney yet, but I'm still waiting for any information you might have on David Jacob Cohen, who died in London from a car accident. Unfortunately, I believe he was, I'm not sure, or any of the, or Abraham Brigham. We know they were born in Mogador, but I know that these so-called archives, I don't know where they are now, but we'd love to get any kind of, primary documents.
In the past, Harif has done events on both the Jews of Cape Verde and the Jews of Azores. I'm trying to find them in our library. I've just put the Azores in the chat. I'm looking for.
Yeah, and I
Cape
think you
Verde.
just need to put Cape Verde in the search box and it should
No, it
come
doesn't
up.
come up. I
Oh,
tried.
it
Oh
doesn't.
non, je peux partir maintenant.
Too old. It's
Anyway,
too old.
Sydney, would you like to say something about
Well,
these families in Cape Verde?
Well, in fact, I didn't find a lot of documents, but I found some families that went from Mogador to the island, you know, to Cape Verde and so on. One of them was from the Pinto family, from the Rabbi Pinto, and he was a trader there. He was and the Ben Saud family, I know about them. The Toby family who came to the islands. I know some families from Mogador who established in the Cape Verde in another island, but unfortunately, I don't have a lot of material. I'm sure that Carol found more than me. I didn't find in the English Foreign Office archives. I didn't find a lot material about it. I think in the Portuguese archives can be found much more documents about it. But I have a small chapter in my book about this episode. Okay.
If I may, I can add something about the people from Mogador who went to the Azores. This is Raquel Levy Toledano speaking.
Oh, hi, Raquel.
Okay, yeah.
Hi.
Hi, Raquel.
That was a fantastic talk, Sydney. Thank you very much. It happened that I found a link with some descendant of the Levy family in Cabo Verde. There are some documents indeed, but they are in Portuguese, and we found out with a DNA test. It was totally unexpected. I didn't know that, and actually they went from Mogador to Faro. And I believe that they left Mogador at the time of the bombardment of Mogador in 1845. And from there, they went to Cabo Verde because there was probably some opportunity to do some business there.
In 1844, 1845, there was an attack of the
Exactly.
French fleet on Mogador, and a lot of traders left or to England or to other places because it was a really...
That is when my great-grandfather was born in Manchester.
Yeah.
Finally, I find out why he was born there. He was born in 1845, and probably his family went to Manchester. The other part of the family went to Faro, and that's they transited from there to Cabo Verde.
They had to flee.
Fascinating. Absolutely amazing.
The attack.
I must say the Moroccan Jews were really enterprising, you know, like
a lot. That was
they were so brave to actually, you know, get on a ship and, you know, survive storms in the Atlantic and end up somewhere where...
Not speaking about Brazil and South America, where part of the family went to.
You know, in my book, I have a whole chapter about how the problem with the ship, how they sank, and what the difficulties, and how many ships around Mogador and the coast of Morocco sank. It's amazing. I found a lot. I have all the names of the ships, and it's an amazing story.
Fantastic.
Holly is next.
Yeah. Can I just ask Sydney, when is the French edition due to come out? Because I'm assuming more people can read the French edition than they can the Hebrew edition.
From a cousin, I don't know if he with us, I didn't saw his name, Sydney Corcos, my cousin, he helped me, and we are working now as we speak. There is a woman that she's translating, although I speak French, but not, my French is not enough good to translate the whole book. So it will take some months it will take, I think at least a year.
Okay, so let us know when it's out and we'll tell everybody.
Right, Holly, I think you're next.
Okay.
Holly?
I just wanted to mention that you have on the screen right now quite a few Corcos descendants from various places. You have my sister, Susie, and I don't know who is with her, but I can't see, but she's there. My niece, Joelle, and I imagine others I cannot see. But I just want to indicate that we're here and supporting the Corcos family.
Are you yourself a Corcos?
Pardon?
Yes.
No, I got off for a second. I apologize. And then I didn't think you were going yet. I'm sorry.
Okay, Holly.
I don't normally do that. Come on, let's go.
Holly,
Hello.
then Susie. Holly's gone. Susie, do you
Yeah,
want to go
sorry.
next?
I think Holly's in transit somewhere.
Susie.
Okay, I'm here. I'm here.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Just wanted to say hi.
Sorry.
I'm here. Hi, can you hear
Thank
me?
you, Sydney, for sharing this. It was
So,
great.
sorry, listen to Holly for a
Holly
minute.
first, then
Yeah.
Susie. Yeah.
I'm here.
Right, but
Can
wait,
you hear
let's-
me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Oh, another way. I've never done this on a bus because
Yes,
why
I
would
see
I
we
be
can
on a bus
hear you.
talking to you? But anyway. Anyway, I wanted to thank Sydney for your very wonderful family story, and I always look forward to hearing from you, Sydney, when you talk about Mogador. Carol gives very good Zoom webinars on Cape Verde, which I have been to. I mean, the webinars. So I encourage all of you to watch Carol's webinars. And as always, Lynn and Lawrence, I thank you. This has been a crazy day for me and a few unexpected things. And I didn't expect to be on a bus talking to you. I really prefer seeing all of your faces and you seeing my faces. But I guess we live and learn. I guess it doesn't work well on a bus. So you've at least got my voice.
Thank you very much, Holly. I'm very impressed by your dedication to our Harif lectures. That you can still join
Well,
us.
I learn a lot, and I do learn a lot, and it has broadened my horizons too, of course. And so I do like to attend from wherever I am, but I didn't expect it to be on a bus at the moment.
Great.
So I
Thank you
apologize.
so much, Holly.
Holly, thank you.
Wait a minute, maybe. Wait, maybe. Oh no, I get.
Okay,
Okay,
Susie. Where are you?
Susie Lugassa?
Is a cousin.
Yeah, we just wanted to say thank you, Sydney.
Susie, hello.
Dis bonjour. Hello.
Lynn,
Who are you?
Where are you?
hi, Lynn. I just want to share something.
Sandra. Yes.
Yes, I was in Casablanca a few years ago for a wedding. My daughter's husband, his brother-in-law, had a brother who had a wedding, and we went there. It's a beautiful country. And they had a very beautiful, elaborate wedding in their home. And there seems to be, like he said, the better off Jews who remained there, but they are the older generation. And after them, like he said, the young are leaving and left. And it's so sad because I saw such a beautiful country. And I was so overwhelmed when we went to visit the mosque there. I think, huge. It's so tall. It's so big. And I just think that, thank God for this king. I think I heard it say that the only reason why he's there is because he supports the United States.
Or the United States.
Yeah. And if he leaves that alliance, they're going to come after him. So he's very smart, knows how to deal with his things. And yes, there were lots of police everywhere. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful country.
Sydney, have
Yeah.
one last word
Thank
before
you.
we.
Thank you, everyone, and come and visit or Jerusalem or Beit Dakira in Essaouira. And hope you'll be able to read my
I
book.
apologize for that one. I know I shouldn't have done that.
My
I
book.
thought okay. Yeah, you just ain't kidding. I got the cell phone, the iPhone in my hand.
Holly is still on her bus.
Holly is with you.
My
Go.
book will tell
Okay.
the whole story of the community that that never have been told before. Everything will be there.
So we look forward to reading your book. Sydney, we wish you luck with it and keep us updated.
And if anyone knows someone who's
Thank you
prepared,
very much. I really enjoyed that, Sydney. It was
Thank you
fantastic.
very much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you once again, Sydney, for a brilliant talk. And I hope to see everybody join us, join Michelle for what will certainly be a brilliant talk.
thanks.
Au revoir.
Everyone.
Au revoir.
Good night.